Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session of the 2025 Australian CFO Report and Finance Trends to Watch. Great to have so many people join us. Before we get formally started, just a quick reminder on a couple of the housekeeping today. This session is designed to be very interactive. There's the opportunity to ask questions as we go throughout. To do so, you've got the Q&A functionality in front of you, and we will run through the questions at the end of this session. So look, maybe to start and to kick us off today, we'll just run through who your hosts are. We'll then run into a discussion about the report and some of the trends that we're seeing, and then set aside 10 minutes at the end of this for Q&A from the audience. So with that, perhaps just kick off with a little bit of background on who you've got in front of you today. My name's Damon Hornstein. I'm the CFO and COO at Wheel, a spend management company based in Australia. Very excited to be joined by two esteemed guests with me today, actually. So we've got Natalie Kidcuff, who's the director and founder of Beyond CFO. And we've got Julian Carruthers, who's the CFO at Leisure Accommodation Collective. So Natalie, maybe to start with you, perhaps could you give us a little bit of background on Beyond CFO and what your role there is?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Damon. Hi, everyone. I'm the founder and director at Beyond CFO here. I'm a chartered accountant turned outsourced CFO, essentially helping small to medium businesses with my absolute passion of really trying to help them not just succeed, but thrive. And so we aim to be a strategic partner, guiding decision makings with like solid, actionable insights and roadmap into, how to embrace technology and really grow their business with confidence and scalability and be agile along the way. So yeah, that's pretty much me. Thanks, Damon.
Terrific. And Julian, perhaps hand over to you and give us a quick overview of your role at Leisure Collective and indeed Leisure Collective itself.
Yeah, thanks, Damon. Julian, I'm CFO at LA Co. We have two brands at the moment, Drifter and The Village. Behind me, you can see my background. This is one of our Village hybrid hotels. So hostel, as some of you might think of it, in market. So I've got 10 years experience with Event, which was Ridges and QT, where I started. And then I moved over to Europe and worked with Generator Hostels in London through the UK, Europe, and USA. Moved back and spent about 4 years in Medico Legal, which was a little bit different. And then, landed with LA Co almost 2 years ago now. So we're basically institutionalizing hostels and hotels in Australia and bringing this new concept and a new experience to Asia Pacific. No longer are hostels Colombia or Cambodia or get your bag stolen when you fall asleep. It's very clean, tidy, a community-based experience now, and we're fast growth, fast paced, trying to get everything integrated, which kind of feeds into this, obviously. And yeah, that's me now.
Great. Well, look, two very esteemed speakers, as I mentioned, bringing a great diversity of perspectives to discussing this report in front of us today. So what we're discussing is the FY25 Australian CFO Report. This is a report that was conducted through a poll of over 200 CFO and financial leaders across Australia. An independent group, YouGov, did the analysis and polling, and Wheel was a sponsor of the report. And really it looks at critical issues, opportunities and trends amongst the CFO and financial leadership community across Australia. For everyone on this webinar today, you will benefit from a copy of this report after this webinar, and hopefully it gives some great insights and opportunities for your business. What we'll do today is just talk through some of the key themes that came up in that report and give you an opportunity to hear from both Natalie and Julian on how some of those things play out day to day in what they're seeing across their world. So look, three key themes that we've sort of picked out to discuss today: digital transformation, operational efficiency, and the evolving and indeed expanding role of the CFO in 2024 onwards. So look, let's kick it off on digital transformation. One of the key things we found through the analysis that we did is only 5% of CFO and finance leaders across Australia that we polled rated their level of automation as very high. And, you know, in a world where we're constantly seeing the narrative around automation and AI and how easy our lives can be, this is probably lower than some people might intuitively expect. So Natalie, maybe I'll pass to you initially. You know, how do you approach digital transformation when you're speaking to your clients, and ultimately, what role does automation play in simplifying their finance processes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, essentially, it's bringing the conversation to the table to begin with. I think that's the most important part in most businesses, is they don't know what they don't know. So, and then from there, really, it's about assessing what the current situation is like, specifically in the workflows for the finance team, understanding the level of manual input and things like that that are actually happening, what bottlenecks are creating problems or exist. And that's quite, important. And then from there, we try and unlock the efficiencies through automation and software, specifically digital transformation in those areas. So it's really important. But I think for me, the key is, being focused on strategically implementing the appropriate solutions and the time-consuming things that are prone to error. So being able to reduce anything that's manual and, deliver reporting and information and insights, as I'm sure we're all talking about at the moment, in just a timely manner. I'm sure we're all used to, month end being slowed up because of certain reasons. And then if you can turn around and have it done or have a conversation much sooner, I think it has quite a large impact on the higher value activities in the business itself.
Right. And look, one of the other things that we saw come out in the report was that fewer than 60% of businesses are using like core technologies like spend management solutions. And look, I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago in Adelaide talking to people in a health related industry, and I was surprised how many people in the audience and across the floor at the conference I spoke to that we're still using paper-based processes for things like receipt collection and things. I think, again, a lot of people on this call that are kind of at the cutting edge probably take it for granted that things have moved to the digital world, and yet there are big chunks of the community that are still using, I guess, older or more antiquated solutions. And seemingly there is this underutilization of some of the opportunities and technologies that are out there. So Julian, perhaps, to talk to you as an organization that is sort of at the forefront of some of these things, how are you approaching some of these new technologies to support the growth of your business across Australia, New Zealand, and more widely?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're probably in a lucky situation that we're in a company that's embracing this. I know that some probably won't do that, and that might be the first hurdle. But we're definitely forward-thinking, forward-looking, and fast growth. So it's easy for us to justify these changes. Our first one was probably when we took over the business, nothing was integrated. Everything was sharded and it was all archaic, and it was probably built around the wrong model for us in hospitality as well. It was previously a construction company effectively. So we had to change our ERP. So we switched to an ERP accounting system, which was more robust. It allowed us to have our USALI chart of accounts and our departments and our project codes and things like that. And then we looked at ways of creating the two-way data channels. So how does that link two ways into all of our other systems? I think we have about 25 systems active in our group. So it's quite a lot. And if you go to any kind of tech convention at the moment, and specifically for hotels, if we've got a no vacancy tomorrow, there's 100 people there that can sell me 100 different things that will talk to my guests automatically, or sell them a towel. So it can be quite overwhelming. So it does take a moment to step back and figure out what we need. But two-way data channels for budgeting and cash flow we've found quite significant and quite helpful. So we can pull data down from our ERP, our accounting system. We can manipulate it and overlay it, and we can push it back up again. So we can do real-time cash flow and real-time budgeting and forecasting. And then advanced reporting. So web hooking into that data and creating, you can just create spreadsheets even. Like you can do as basic as spreadsheets, but the data is web hooked in, or you could go as far as getting a BI tool and doing that reporting as well. Getting a basic understanding of things like Zapier or integration software, or meeting and getting to know the best devs in every segment. So don't waste your time on people. I don't know, it could be a broad comment, but if you get someone that thinks they can do everything, it's unlikely. Generally there's one person that can specialize in one space and a different person can specialize in another space, and I think it's good to get the right person for the right job. And then AP automation workflow, AI is very good in this space now. So obviously Wheel has this as well, but you can do that OCR scraping of invoices and things like that in various systems now. It can do that coding for you. And we also spend a lot of time on things like utility tracking. We've reached out and we actually use a company that links into all of our meters and gets copies of all of our bills, and we get full dashboards, live dashboards on all of our sites for all things utility as well. So we've kind of gone down a few different angles. It's not just systems, it's more like analyzing what we're actually using in market as well.
And Julian, perhaps to put a practical lens on that for people on this call, what's sort of been your journey to get to that stage, and I guess how long has that sort of taken you to pull off?
Yeah, so we started that in June 23, and I think we took on too much too early, personally. I would always say one project at a time now, but you do need to get your entire infographic, for lack of a better word, or workflow. It's a boring thing to do, but it's important to understand where you want to be at the end of it all, because every single system impacts on every other system, I find. So we probably took on 4 rollouts in the first quarter after we took over, and it was probably 3 too many. So I would just do one at a time now. But yeah, so between June 23 and February, March this year, we rolled out 5 or 6 different systems in accounts. We changed our entire chart of accounts and rolled out an entire new balance sheet structure as well. As well as on top of that, there was about 15 other operational technologies implemented in that period as well, but not by my team. But again, all feeding in as well.
Got it. Now, Natalie, I guess you have a unique perspective as someone that gets to work with a range of companies and gets to see a range of different levels of embracing of some of this sort of technology and automated solutions. So I guess, yeah, what do you see working well across your roster of organizations and clients?
Yeah, so I guess first and foremost, I think the key to being successful is the strategic mindset. So ensuring that, like, just backing off what Julian was saying, is making sure you're not just going all in at once and going really hard. So yeah, make sure you've got your goals and your immediate manageable steps. And it's not just about efficiency, right? And we're trying to create resilience and also adaptability along the way. So I really, really focus on, the processes and identifying, I guess, the problems first. So we work through a bit of a planning session where you go through the core pain points, like what are the problems, what are the things in our organization, because not everything's the same. And I see that, like, yeah, there's always a top couple of things that everyone's having troubles with, is paper receipts or, chasing people for their credit card transactions when it's just, a business owner, that kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of other things going on in the team that you can check. So we go through that core pain points, and then we also look at what are the scalable tools or the options on the table. So that are going to impact those processes or those things that are a problem. So it's really important, I guess, to like share the processes with the solution and make sure that they're across it. And like what like we're talking about spend management options, like Wheel is one of them. There's several others. What does your business need? But really getting the outcome for everyone, not just the finance team, but the user friendly interface, and maybe the marketing team using something different. Like if you've got 25 systems, there's a lot of different people using different things. So I think that's really important. And then obviously, I think Gillian touched on it really well, but the data integration, accessibility around how those digital solutions work. And then next steps, engaging the team. So making sure your team's on board and setting measurable goals throughout. Like, as you can hear from real life situation, it can take months, if not years, to implement these changes and get there. So I think it's really important taking that targeted approach and rather go a bit slower and to focus on the smoother transition than build momentum afterwards. So yeah, I think that's what you're referring to there, Damon.
Yep. No, that's great. And look, Julie, if I swing back to you, I mean, accommodation is a pretty competitive market to play in, and obviously you've carved out a niche in what you're bringing to the table. But I guess, how do you make sure the finance function is helping the wider business stay agile and competitive in that space, and not just optimizing finance pieces for finance sake?
Yeah, and we probably take quite an operational lens on this, Damon, which might be quite different to other finance teams, potentially, depending on your segment. But we use a lot of data points, and we try and get access to those data points. So that might be traveller numbers into Australia, trends of travellers into the area, satisfaction of those, and then the ability to scrape all of our competitors' websites as well. So whether we're talking booking.com as an example, or Expedia. So just the raw data that we can get all the time, and then leveraging AI on that to try and give us the outcomes or the data points that we need to make decisions. We're lucky in the industry we're in. All of our competitors are actually, like, we're kind of friendly. It's not a hostile market. We're all here to give travellers a great time into Australia, and particularly like 26 to 40-year-olds in most instances. So everyone's just here to make sure these people have a great time for their 6 months here. So our travellers into Australia spend more than any other traveller into Australia because they're here for so long. So it's not ultra hostile. So we can actually bounce off each other, and there's comp sets out there and things like that. So we kind of spend time then off the back of that continually discussing with other tech companies and other entrepreneurs, so like yourself, Damon, or devs or anyone like that, and we talk to them about our pain points, and they quite often will know someone else in the industry that they can refer us to, or say, hey, we actually found out about Wheel through this. We were talking to someone else about something unrelated, and they're like, you should check out Wheel. They're doing really cool things. So that was how we found you, as an example. And we do a lot of that to understand what we need to do.
Nice. Well, great to hear. And Natalie, one of the things that people often struggle with when they're thinking about some of these digital tools is just how to successfully roll it out. And there's a myriad of challenges that can often come with, process, change management, budget approvals and things. Again, as someone that sees this across multiple organizations and perhaps multiple different types of, stakeholders and diligence that different organizations do on these things, any tips that I guess you can share with the audience here on what has led to successful implementations or embracing of new tools?
Yeah, what a great topic. I would say the key thing is communication. So communicating to the team, the wider team, and every stakeholder as soon as you can that things are going to change. So you're really trying to embrace that change management from the start, but also communicating at the planning stage, getting the people involved that need to be involved. at the right level, the key, users of the software being rolled out. But not only that, just it's almost the end game as well. So who needs to use it and why? Let's get really clear. What's the vision? Communicate these things. Explain to the team what impact it will have on them once they get through this, sometimes sticky transition, because a lot of businesses I work with are in that scaling phase. So they're growing. What that means usually is that they're kind of stuck in that, oh, we've done it this way forever. It's frustrating me, but there's no end in sight. So we bring a solution to the table, but the first thing is just to resist. So it's really getting clear, oh, guys, this is really going to help. This is what's working. So that's quite good. But investing the time in training, invest upfront. Make sure you've got your team available for when you're ready to roll it out. Do, a planned approach. It's, those really key focus on what's happening when, and how it will impact that person and also their team and the business. So I think those things are really, really key. I also think celebrating the small wins, like if one small part of the project goes really well at the start, celebrate. Let's be on top of it and communicate that success, as well as always gathering continuous feedback. Okay, how's it working for you? How's it working for the team? But I guess with the culture, it is really important to ensure that you've got the right people in the right roles too. So coming in as an outsource is sometimes what this creates is that unfortunate, uncomfortable situation where people don't want to change. So it's really just making sure everyone's on board with it and getting their buy-in and all of those parts. But encouraging the openness really helps with that.
Great. No, it's definitely a challenging thing, and I think everyone looks at these projects and these end states as something exciting and to aim for. But yeah, a lot of people do struggle with the practical challenge of getting it off the ground and getting it successfully integrated. So great to hear those perspectives. Look, I might change tact a little bit and just talk for a few minutes with you both about operational efficiency. I think as more of the world becomes digital and more data becomes available to organizations generally, I think the finance role takes on a larger importance in a lot of organizations, because people are looking for that team to bring more value and insight and to the wider organization, really. So look, Julie, maybe I'll start with you. I mean, you're a fast-growing organization. You're in a competitive space, as I mentioned earlier. What sort of operational efficiencies have you had to address to stay competitive, and what role is the finance team playing ultimately in streamlining some of those operations across the organization?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when we started out, we had poor integrations, poor data, poor benchmarking. We're very sharded. So we also found that in our industry as well, given we were hostels rather than hotels, we were the junior in the industry. Like, there's a lot of money funneled into hotels. There's beds everywhere, but when you put one bed in a room into the equation, all of a sudden 95% of your options drop off. You actually don't have those options. So the big companies focus solely on rooms, and we are obviously beds. So that was probably our second challenge that we had. How do we get either their eyes on our issues, or who do we go to get that resolved? So we probably had to just treat it as though finance were going to be the gatekeepers of this, and then we were going to go out there and find the people that could help us. And we found for us that Europe was probably the most advanced for this. So Europe and UK embraced that hybrid hotel model. It's very big in Germany, and there's a lot of private equity pouring into that space overseas, and a lot of private equity going into Asia. So we knew that it was coming. It's just elsewhere. So we actually made relationships with various European, Dutch, Israeli, both very good companies and countries for integration of tech and forward thinking with this kind of work. So we kind of sought out and went looking for the right people via various avenues. So it's a shame they're on the 12-hour perfectly behind us, so it's not great for calls, but that was probably where we looked. And then we just knew that the CFO at the end of the day and the finance team was responsible for all the dollars and all the decisions around all the systems. So we made sure that we were somewhat involved in all those other conversations as well to make sure they all landed in line with our tech stack. We actually don't have an internal CTO or anything like that, so we had to handle that from our side.
And Julian, maybe a practical question on this. I mean, what does that look like day to day? Does that mean that you've got engineering specialists within the finance team or under you, or you've had to take on some of those skills? How do you get that capability day to day?
Yeah, we don't have specialist developers or people in tech, unfortunately. We have very good analysts. We're property at the end of the day as well as an operating hotel company. So we have really good prop analysts behind us. So we have the skills and the knowledge on how to crunch that data. But yeah, from a development perspective, we are very reliant on other parties. Hence why my initial comments were you need to find the right people in the right spaces. Don't get me wrong, I still have plenty of things that are not plugged into the right socket. So, it's a never-ending challenge, David. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And Natalie, look, again, as someone that sees lots of organizations go through these sort of change, I mean, what do you tend to recommend to the finance leaders who want to drive that operational efficiency or play a more strategic role in their organizations?
Yeah, so initially I would say cross collaboration between departments. So making sure you're across what's going on for the other departments and really being involved in the conversations around how it's impacting the strategic view on the business and what the plan is. So connecting those dots is so important. I spent a lot of time as I guess a finance manager working with the marketing team in one of my businesses, and it was one of the most important things that I learned as part of where I am now is it's what other numbers are you looking at, because they're not a numbers person, and how can we integrate the information for you to make decisions. But that's just one example for a start. I guess it's really important for adoption as well, is because you don't want any team to lag. So being a part of where the bottlenecks are and how it's strategically impacting every team and operationally, because the efficiencies come through having these conversations with, like I said, what are your pain points and how can we solve that problem? Because we're really trying to grow. And if we go from 5 stores to 10 stores, what's that going to look like for the warehouse? Or what does that mean for our postage bill? What does that mean? It's crazy things. That's very basic, but these are the conversations you need to have and think about, is if the strategy is to double the business, how is that going to impact each area? And I guess from that, like, one of the most important things I find, and this isn't something that's easy to do, but you can definitely enlist somebody to help, is just process map things out. So take that approach and really just sit on a page, grab a whiteboard, share a screen, whatever it is, and work with the departments to really map out what processes are happening and identifying those, what could be redundant, what's a duplication, all of those things. And I think that really getting to understand the foundations of what's operationally happening and then being able to report on it and find that perfect solution or a solution to start becoming more efficient.
Yep, really good practical advice, Natalie. Now, for everyone in the audience, I'm momentarily going to pass over for questions. As I mentioned at the start, there's a Q&A function in Zoom, or indeed there's a chat. So if you've got some questions, please share them. I've got one more topic I'll run through with Natalie and Julia, and then I'd love to share some of the questions from the floor. And I can see a couple coming through already, which is great. So if you've got them, please submit them, and we'll momentarily move to them. Now, Before we get to that, I wanted to talk, Natalie and Julian, about one last thing, which is the evolving role of the CFO. So I think, we do a lot of events at Wheel, and we spend a lot of time talking to CFO and finance leaders across the country, really. And I think one thing that we find when we have these conversations is that the role is really changing. The person that's taking on the CFO role in 2024 is less likely to be the super analytical, quiet, compliance orientated person focused on the formalities. And more often we find it's like strategic, ambitious leaders that are looking to play an outsized role in the organization. And I think we see that playing through in a lot of the data and the themes that are reported on globally. I mean, the most common path at the moment towards the CEO role actually is the CFO role across larger public companies. So I think it's definitely changing. Julian, I wanted to start with you. I mean, as someone that's been in this role for a little while, how do you see it evolving? Are there additional opportunities, responsibilities, problems that you've taken on to solve and drive leisure accommodation collective to the next level that
Yeah,
you'd be like?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Damon, I think you just made account sound cool for a second there. I think you made out that we're evolving. I love it. I'll take that. Look, I definitely think we're more operational. I mean, the fact that you're COO and CFO makes just proves that point. And I know the CFO of Mile has also gone to the COO role there. So just from a big company standpoint, it's happening in most places. And there's no difference for us. So operationally, I'm on the ground for even basic things like menu costing, food and beverage costings. We do weekly payroll, obviously, engagement, and operational finance on that. But we don't just crunch the numbers. We actually get in there and we kind of try and make minutes and productivity a thing for our guys as well. So they're not just thinking about it dollars, they're thinking about, well, how many minutes do I spend on something? How many minutes do my staff spend on things? And we break down the day that way as well. So it's kind of looking at it in 3D. The revenue trends and the sales trends of where we need to go as a business as well. So we're probably a little bit more junior in some regard like that, but we have full visibility on that. And then understanding the constraints in the ground from our team so that we can communicate that up to board as well. So I think it's important that we act as a conduit between them. Myself personally, I'm the public officer in COSEC. So there's obviously a compliance element there for us and for me. And with that comes risk, fire, life safety, health and safety, a whole bucket of probably the less exciting things, but they still exist. And obviously, they don't get a lot of thought until they get all the thought. So, it just depends on your business, obviously. But yeah, I really see that our involvement in operations and involvement in compliance, HR, tech, it's growing. It's much bigger than it's ever been. Yeah.
Yeah. And Natalie, anything else that you'd share on this, or that you kind of observe with the CFOs you work with?
Not specifically. I guess, backing off exactly what Julian was saying is it comes back to that really collaboration with different departments and supporting them where they're needed most, because essentially part of the problem sometimes becomes is they're really good at what they do, but they might not know how to, wrangle the numbers or ask the right questions to get to those numbers. So I think that's really, really I guess important is strengthening those relationships, like you said, evolving the conversations.
Right. Well, we've got a number of questions that have come through, so we might turn now to some of the audience questions. Natalie, first one I've got has come through for you, which is any simple tools that you could suggest to the audience for process mapping?
Yeah, so there's a lot out there actually. So I actually always use the Microsoft PowerPoint. So just because it's in the Microsoft suite, it's quite easy to use. But off the back of that, there's a lot of AI that's just come out. I haven't actually tried to use it, that it integrates with, I think, PowerPoint, and I've also used, there's Miro and Lucid. Lucid's quite good. It's quite easy to use. I guess it just depends what's in your suite of apps, but there's a couple of ideas.
Yep. Look, I'll move through these reasonably quickly in the interest of time, but question for both of you. Generally, in your experience, can you explain the different ways that finance teams can contribute to a positive company culture? Gillian, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, look, I think from our side, it's communication. We act as a conduit almost. I probably use it, not HR, but we are there to understand what management want, board want, investors want, and understand what the people on the ground are doing, and their kind of challenges as well. And I think sometimes it's as simple as talking to them and listening to them and relaying that, and actually having some tangible wins. That's what we find is the best. Natalie, anything to add?
Yeah, I guess encouraging their perspective. So one of the things I do is work with the team to understand, like I said, where they're at, what's going on, but being able to have those conversations openly and say, look, we're really trying to support you and create, I guess, and encourage their feedback, the positive outcomes that we're trying to achieve will kind of piggyback off that, but also just making sure that they know we're supporting the innovation and their teams to be able to kick their goals.
Great. Gillian, question for you. You mentioned dynamic cash flow forecasting. Question is, could you elaborate a little bit more on how you did that and what tools?
Yeah, absolutely. So we use a company called Modano, Modano. So they're a reporting company that act for a lot of the big companies like KPMG, CBRE, PwC. And they have out-of-the-box solutions that webhook and directly integrate into, I believe they do Xero, Maya, Oracle NetSuite, like all the big ones. And so we actually set up the Modano model out of the box, and then we did a custom build for what we needed for budgeting. We pull the data down from where with NetSuite, we pull the data down, we manipulate into, it sits in the same format. It's a rolling sheet. Anything you do in these Excel sheets will automatically update all other sheets that are linked to it. So we have one for all of our subsidiaries, and it pushes up, and we do our cash flow that way. So we can do 24 months, 15 months. We basically don't have a budgeting month anymore because we budget consistently in a rolling 15-month window. So we have a rolling budget. We still sit down and do that and put something in stone, but that's the approach we're taking at the moment. You can feed in all of your debt, interest, caps, everything you need to into that. So they're Modano, they're good, and they're pretty affordable.
Yep, great. Next question is, understanding the comments shared on mapping out processes, identifying redundancies and business opportunities. How are CFOs in this economic climate determining which solutions to purchase? How do you find the purchasing decisions are then made by organisations? Maybe Natalie, start with you on this one.
Yeah, so I guess it's really a blend of strategic exploration and industry insights, and then some practical testing for the business. So for me, it's really got to align with what the business needs. So, and sometimes if the need is that the cost is brought down, then that also assists with making that decision. So it's a number of things, but I also recommend businesses to consult with other industry specialists. So talk to your networks and speak to people doing the same things or using the software, and ask them why they don't like it. What doesn't work? Because I tell you what, I've sat in so many sales rooms where they'll only tell you what does work, and that's great, but it doesn't help in the long run. So, Julian.
Nice.
Yeah, so true. I reached out to a few people on LinkedIn and asked them to tell me the worst things they had about some of the systems I was looking to take on. So yeah, it was very helpful. And yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes you also want to forget the budget for a second and don't care about the spend and shop everywhere. Like ask everyone how much they are. And it'll be funny. You'll have some things that are $600 and some things that are $40,000, the exact same thing. And that's where you can start to kind of pinpoint, like, what are the differences? Why am I being, these SaaS programs cost so much? And then work backwards from that and get what you need, rather than going and be like, I only got 10 grand. What's that going to get me? Because sometimes you won't know what these things are worth. So yeah, we kick a lot of tires, and you'd be surprised those SaaS solutions, they can do very good discounts. So pitch them against each other. Yeah,
Definitely, definitely true. Last question that I'll take is, can you share some of your key strategies or process improvements that you've implemented to improve the visibility of company spend across the organization? Maybe Natalie, start with you.
Yeah, so getting away from paper was the first one there. But we actually use Wheel across most of our businesses for spend management. But what that gives us is visibility over just what's happening straight away. Like we know it's clearly who's spending what when, if they have a receipt, if they don't, so many things. But not just that. One of the implementations that I tend to do is providing budgets for different parts of what they need to spend on. So for example, if we've got a business development employee, we would give them a budget for eating out and meals, and we would give them a budget per spend. And this is all managed very, very well through the Wheel platform. So that's probably the key to us making this work. But probably the other part to that, and this is something that gets forgotten, is that I don't have to do very, very long-winded bank forms to get someone up and running. We have staff changeover, that you can't control, but you can control really quickly with Wheel. So it's also got that functionality of, just being very robust around how you manage everything.
Nice. Well, very kind of you to share, Natalie. Julian, anything you'd add on that this topic?
Yeah, mine was probably more in the CapEx realm, to be honest. We have a lot of CapEx, but it's quite a large part of our business, and just moving it all to a WIP account and associating project codes, cost types, and dumping that data and presenting it in a way that it's digestible by project every single month and never missing your deadline, and presenting it to board or to a committee or to someone, just made everyone accountable. Because we found in our business that CapEx was that hole that everything went into sometimes if it didn't go anywhere else potentially. So now we've got visibility on that. It's also allowed us to see if assets have got issues as well. So it's not just the spend, it's more understanding where we need to spend our time, and more to the board point as well. They now have visibility on what needs their attention. So it was just a process around that, rather than letting CapEx go straight into an asset account or straight into a fixed asset register. It goes through a WIP now and everything gets analyzed. So that was good for us.
Great. Well, look, in the interest of time, there's a few other questions. We'll come back to some of those questions to people via offline channels. Maybe Natalie and Julian, just before we wrap up, any concluding remarks from either of you on, perhaps just priorities for 2024 and 2025 for you?
I can kick off if you like, Natalie. I think for me, 2025 will be the year of data and data warehouse or data lake. So we haven't actually started that process yet. So I have been delaying it. I've been putting it off because I know it's so considerable. So I think that's our focus next year, to, by the end of the year, have our data in one place and have out of the box reporting for everything automated. That's my 12-month goal.
Nice. Natalie?
Very good. Well, my 12-month goal is just to, I guess, enhance the client impact. So what can we be bringing to the table for our clients to ensure they're getting, all the things that are happening in front of them quicker? So the whole AI and digital efficiencies and all of that. But in addition to that, I guess for me, it comes back to this operational and CFO role, is how do we cross-functionally collaborate better and really push that out, and having, I guess, all the teams talking to each other in a really good time frame to make good decisions quickly. Yeah, so that's it.
I think that AI role, Natalie, is really undercooked. We're starting to touch on it here a little bit more, but yeah, I think if anyone can leverage that day to day, it'd be a massive win. So you need to give me a call if you can nail that for me.
Yeah.
Look, certainly a focus for many a CFO and many an organisation right now. So I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that in the year ahead. Well, look, maybe to wrap up, Natalie, Julian, fantastic to have you on and sharing your insights and putting a real practical lens around this report and the analysis that's been undertaken. For everyone that joined us, thank you very much for participating. For everyone on the call and those that register, we will send you out a copy of the report for your reference, and hopefully there's some great insights and pieces in there that are useful for your role day to day. We've just got two quick poll questions that we're going to conclude with. First one is, would you like to learn more information about Wheel being the spend management company where I work and that sponsored this piece? Simply a yes or no question. And if you're not interested, then feel free just to ignore the question. And then we'll give people a moment to respond to that. And then the second question is, what topics would you be interested in learning more about? So we do a number of these Australian CFO community events throughout the year, webinars, reports, roundtables. We're always looking to make sure they're meaningful and relevant to people in the industry and in the roles, and helping people achieve excellence in their function. So love to get feedback on what people would like to hear, and hopefully, in the coming months and quarters ahead, we are able to deliver that and make it useful to yourselves. Great. Well, look, with that brings us to the conclusion of today's events. Thank you very much again to our panelists for joining us, and thank you to everyone in the audience for participating and being a part of it. Hopefully you find the report that is sent after this very useful and relevant, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.